to tonight's news bulletin from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. His Excellency, the United Nations Special Envoy to Yemen stresses on the high level of appreciation for the Sultanate's support towards the international efforts in Yemen. The Oman Investment Authority hosts a virtual seminar on enabling innovative investments strategies. And the United Nations Secretary General urges China and US to keep bilateral spats out of climate fight, while Mexico and Taiwan are hit by storms causing heavy rainfall. You are with the Sultanate of Oman television. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends a cabal of condolences to His Excellency Dr. Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, President of the Portuguese Republic, on the death of former Portuguese President Jorge Sampaio. His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Mohammed bin Awad Al Hassan, Sultan's permanent representative to the United Nations, received His Excellency Hans Grunberg, United Nations Secretary General Special Envoy to Yemen, at the Sultan's premises and to the United Nations. During the meeting, they reviewed the latest updates in Yemen and the international efforts to bring back security and stability in the country. His Excellency the United Nations Secretary General Special Envoy to Yemen stressed on the high level of appreciation for the support provided by the Sultanate towards the international efforts in Yemen and its keenness to observe the Omani points of view. The Sultanate, represented in the Oman Investment Authority, hosted the seminar on enabling innovative investment strategies for the Board of Governors of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. The seminar was held through video conferencing. His Excellency Abdus Salam bin Mohammed Al Murshidi, Chairman of Oman Investment Authority, expressed that the partnership with the Asian Bank led to the Sultanate being the most benefited country from the financial facilities provided by the bank through funding 3 infrastructure projects worth $300 million. He clarified that one of the projects funded by the bank is the broadband project. During the seminar efforts of the Sultanate to attract global investments as well as offer incentives for businesses were discussed. The National Statistics and Information Center pointed out that the local liquidity value exceeded 20.1 billion Omani Riyals by the end of June 2021, with an increase by 6.8% compared to the same period last year. The total cash issued by the end of June 2021 reached 1.7 billion Omani Riyals, recording a decline by 3.6%. The total foreign assets in the Central Bank of Oman rose by 1.6% to reach 6.7 billion Omani Riyals. Raisut Industrial Estate succeeded to attract foreign investments without the need for the investor travel from Egypt to reach the industrial estate to start a project for the manufacture of bottles. Investor Services Director in Raisut Industrial Estate explained that this process comes as part of ongoing efforts to achieve digital transformation by attracting industrial foreign investments and offering online services to investors. This can be realized by taking into account the global competition, adopting strategies that often age to investors, and offering a solid infrastructure and smooth government process. Now, tomorrow marks the start of school year for school supervisors, teachers and other administrative employees in all schools across the country amid strict COVID-19 procedures to offer a safe environment for all stakeholders in schools. More than 65,500 teachers and over 10,000 technicians and administrative staff are expected to return to their post this year. Omanization for teachers and other administrative staff have reached 84.8% and 99.8% respectively, while over 300 teachers will work in private schools, 90.6% of which are Omanis. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and yet to come in our news bulletin. The summer scout camp activities conclude in the governorate of Dhofar. Once again, welcome to the Sultanate of Oman television. United Nations Nuclear Agency Chief Rafael Grossi will fly to Tehran this weekend for talks that may ease a standoff between Iran and the West, just as it risks escalating and scuppering negotiations on reviving the Iran nuclear deal. Three diplomats who follow the International Atomic Energy Agency closely said Grossi's trip before next week's meeting of the IAEA's 35 Nations Board of Governors was confirmed. The IAEA informed member states this week that there had been no progress on two central issues, explaining uranium traces found at several old undeclared sites and getting urgent access to some monitoring equipment so the agency can continue to keep track of parts of Iran's nuclear program as provided for by the 2015 deal. The European parties to the deal, 2015 deal, Britain, France and Germany, held a meeting with the United States in Paris yesterday to discuss how to react at the IAEA board and to review options if Iran continues to stall on returning to negotiations. The U.S. is set to mark the 20th anniversary of the September 11th attacks today with the commemorations at New York's World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Mourners arrived early at the site, making their way past police lines to attend the ceremony. The milestone anniversary takes place just weeks after the chaotic U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and the return to power of the Taliban, the faction that sheltered the militant group founded by Osama bin Laden that carried out the attacks. It was also happening amid continuing concern over the COVID-19 pandemic, which has now killed more than 11 times as many people in New York City as the nearly 3,000 that perished in the 2001 attack on the World Trade Center. President Joe Biden is scheduled to travel to all three sites of the 2001 attacks. Former President George W. Bush is expected to speak at the Pennsylvania Memorial. Former U.S. President Obama and Clinton were also attended the New York 9/11 ceremony. President Joe Biden's administration is gearing up for another major clash between federal and state rule over its sweeping new vaccine requirements that have Republican governors threatening lawsuits. But while many details about the rules remain unknown, some experts say Biden appears to be on firm legal ground to issue the directive in the name of protecting employee safety. Republicans swiftly denounced the mandate that could impact 100 million Americans as government overreach and vowed to sue. If they follow through, it would become another test of state power versus federal power over rules not meant to be enforced daily, but rather to have its intended effect by threat. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged the United States and China yesterday to prevent any problems between the superpowers from harming cooperation to combat climate change ahead of the United Nations COP26 climate change conference next month. Ties between the world's two biggest economies have been languishing at their lowest point in decades over issues ranging from human rights to transparency over the origins of COVID-19. Guterres told reporters that they understand there are problems in the relations between the U.S. and China, but those problems do not interfere with the needs of both the U.S. and China to do everything everything possible to make sure that the COP is a success independently of the relations between the two. The COP26 meeting in Glasgow is seen as a critical chance to win more ambitious country-by-country commitments on achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050 and keeping the global average temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius this century. At least one person was killed and 10 others were missing near Mexico City after a landslide buried homes yesterday. According to reports, the landslides buried 4 homes on the Mexican capital's outskirts. Of the 10 people missing, 4 of them are children. Recent heavy rainfall and an earthquake could be the cause for the landslide. Meanwhile, Olaf was downgraded to a tropical storm and was packing maximum sustained winds of near 110 kilometers per hour as it lashed Mexico's Baja California Sur with heavy rains. Fishermen and restaurants owners in Taiwan prepared for Typhoon Chanthu today, tying up ships in the harbor and preparing to close shops. Chanthu was downgraded to a medium typhoon today by Taiwan's weather authorities, who said that while it would bring heavy rain and gusting winds to most of the islands, it was unlikely to make direct landfall. Taiwan Central Weather Bureau said the storm, which was at one point categorized as super typhoon, was losing strength as it headed up the Bashi Channel that separates Taiwan from the Philippines. Chanthu would skirt Taiwan's sparsely populated and mountainous east coast tonight and into tomorrow morning, then head towards China's Xinjiang province and Shanghai. Israeli police said that they have arrested 4 of the 6 Palestinians who broke out of a maximum security prison this week. The arrest moved Israel closer to closing an embarrassing episode that exposed deep flaws in its prison system and turned the fugitive prisoners into Palestinian heroes. Israeli forces said 2 escapes were found hiding in a truck parking lot in an Arab village in northern Israel near the city of Nazareth, where 2 others were captured hours earlier. Meanwhile, today, Palestinians in the Gaza Strip fired a rocket into Israel in an apparent sign of solidarity, drawing Israeli airstrikes in reprisal. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is visiting the Polish capital today for talks with Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki at a time when Poland faces migration pressure on its eastern border with Belarus. The Polish government said it would be Merkel's last visit to Warsaw as the Chancellor of Germany, and that the talks would include discussions on protecting the European Union's external borders and the coronavirus pandemic. During her visit, Merkel attended a wreath-laying ceremony at the tomb of the unknown soldiers. A meeting between Merkel and President Andrzej Duda, which was originally announced by the German government, is not taking place after all, as Duda would be in the southern Polish city of Katowice for celebrations marking the anniversary of Solidarity, the anti-communist trade union. Once again, back here in the Sultanate of Oman, the activities of the summer camp or scout camp in Mount Ashur in the Governorate of Dhofar concluded this year under the theme Scouting and Promoting Environment. The camp this year includes 25 guides who have participated in various cultural scouting and tourism activities. The Mount Ashur focused on promoting the scout and guide skills to promote self-reliance, serve others in need, and work as team players in groups. To mark the end of the camp activities, the participants were awarded for the active participation in the camp and their engagement in various friendly competitions. And now from the Governorate of Dhofar all the way to Al-Dhahira. A number of villages in the Wilayah of Yanqul in the Governorate of Al-Dhahira witnessed heavy to moderate rains, which led some wadis and their tributaries to overflow. This is the Sultanate of Oman television, and before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Excellency, the United Nations Special Envoy to Yemen stresses on the high level of appreciation for the Sultanate's support towards the international efforts in Yemen. The Oman Investment Authority hosts a virtual seminar on enabling innovative investment strategies. And the United Nations Secretary General urges China and US to keep bilateral spats out of climate fight while Mexico and Taiwan are hit by storms causing heavy rainfall. And with that, we do conclude this news bulletin brought to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television, directed by Mohammed Al-Mansouri, and of course, English editor-chief Abdul Latif Al-Balushi, and the entire news team here. We all thank you for joining us. Wish you a pleasant evening. Stay safe and be healthy from the coronavirus. Good night.